Thanks for checking out this movie review video. This is for the 1993 Giallo film Trauma. It's a Dario Argento late in his career, or much later in his career. And I've heard mixed things about this. I'm going to be honest, I don't love it. I don't think it's a great film. But there's something about it that I like. This is kind of one of those films that's a mixture. It's kind of like, some of it's actually like good and entertaining, and then some of it's like, that's so bad it's good. So I did this for when I reviewed the Christopher Lambert film, Resurrection, which I don't know if that review's out before this one goes up. It may or may not be, but I'm going to do a similar thing. I'm actually going to give this 1 rating, but it's a hybrid rating. It's like, in my mind, kind of reconciling what's actually good about this film and what's like so bad it's good about this film. So, and just being 1 rating. So, overall I enjoyed it though. Like, there were moments where I'm like, oh no. But then by the end of it, I'm like, yeah, I had a fun time. So obviously this is the Vinegar Syndrome version. They have the nice gecko thing on the back. A lot of special features on this I have not watched yet. I'm very excited to get into those. Very excited about that. And it looks wonderful, as you would assume, although there were some moments where it didn't look as good. But they had a disclaimer in the beginning saying why, that apparently it's kind of all they could do because of the transfers they had available. All right, so, directed by Dario Argento. This came after his film The Sect and before Stendhal Syndrome, which I have not reviewed Stendhal Syndrome yet or seen it. But if you are looking for more Dario Argento reviews, I have an entire playlist on my channel of all the films I've done thus far, and I'll be adding. Written by Argento, as well as T.E.D. Klein, and a story by Gianni Romoli, who also wrote or had stories for The Sect, Cemetery Man, The Dragon Ring, A Racket, and Don't Kill Me. Excuse me, having a sinusy day. And Franco Ferrini, who also wrote Red Rings of Fear, Phenomena, Demons, Demons 2, Sweets from a Stranger, Opera, Two Evil Eyes, The Stendhal Syndrome, Sleepless, The Card Player, Eyes of Crystal, Do You Like Hitchcock, and Dark Glasses, which I have a review, no spoiler review for Dark Glasses. I did not like it, unfortunately. This film has Brad Dourif in it. I wish his character was a larger character, but when he's on screen, he does an excellent job. If you're not a big Brad Dourif fan, I don't understand. He is outstanding. This was right after he did Critters 4. This was 1 year after Critters 4, and then Piper Laurie is in this film, who obviously, in the end, she ends up being, the killer for it. Obviously, people would know her from things like Twin Peaks, Carrie, and because I know her most well from Carrie, because it was such a memorable character, I just assumed her to be a villain when she first showed up on screen, and that ended up being the case. Like, I had this suspicion that she was going to be the killer throughout, because I'm just like, it's Piper Laurie, man. Like, I just feel like she's got to be a villain somehow. And she didn't come off as, like, all that nice of a person immediately, so. Argento's first American production, and it was the producers who refused to use Goblin for the score. The score does kind of suck in this film. There are literally these moments where it's just like this zany music, and you're just kind of like, what are we doing here? So the score's kind of all over the place. It's not great. Really wish we would have gotten the version of this film where Goblin actually did the score, but as I laid out, the producers turned that down. Now, I never know how to say her name. I should have looked it up. Asia or Asia Argento. I'm going to say Asia. Asia Argento's character is inspired by her half-sister, Anna, who passed away not long after the film was finished. That sucks. Piper Laurie reportedly never watched the film because she, quote, knew it was terrible. I wouldn't say it was terrible. It's entertaining. Like, there's a lot of interesting, cool stuff in it, but I don't know. I guess she got a different read, like, doing the film. Interesting paper cutout scene to start the film. Obviously, that's a little bit of a, I'm not going to say, like, hint or clue, but it's a little something to refer to later that has to do with Nicholas, the kid who died when Piper Laurie was giving birth. So, yeah. There's something significant about the gecko in the cage, since the camera focuses on it so much, just so you know. That's something that, it's one of those things that shows up where, like, the camera's, like, so intently on this thing in such a way that you're just like, this will be somewhat important. And, it just kind of, like, shows up. It's not like it solves anything. It's that it's there, and it indicates to you, knowing where the gecko were in the beginning during that first kill, at the house where they end up showing up outside where that kid sees, that indicates to you, oh, okay, this is where the killer is. But there are other things that indicate that, like severed heads there. There's some... Oh, I literally just read that. Well, that's one hell of a device the killer has. Really enjoyed the use of this interesting killing weapon that they used, that like wire that like is motorized, like mechanical, and then it just like pulls. Very, very interesting, very brutal. Whoever came up with that idea, very original, very interesting. The meeting of David and Aura is so odd, partially because it's so out of nowhere, because you don't know anything about these characters. It just like happens. You just kind of jump into it. And even more so because of Asia's acting. Don't think she does a really great job acting. She's probably like the most like so bad it's good part of this film, because her acting's like bad, but it's like over the top ridiculous, and that makes it kind of like fun and enjoyable too. So like, it's not really what the character calls for, but it is a choice, and it kind of is fun within the film, in my opinion. Just seeing Piper Laurie makes me think she'll be a villain to some degree. I was right about that. The seance aspect of things was intriguing, but it made me wonder how it was going to end up playing into the overall story. I guess they needed to set this up because then, well, it leads to, Aura's father being dead, and she's also thinking her mother's dead at that point because of the killer, but also that it needs to set up that, I'm trying to remember her name, Piper Laurie's character's name. It's in my notes later. I'll get it, but that it also has to set up that she has like these extra sensory abilities, that she has like a sixth sense. So then you get to the whole thing of like the spirit of Nicholas, the child that wasn't born, coming and telling her to like avenge him basically and kill all these people who were involved in him dying on the table. The sound of gargling when Stefan is killed enhances that kill so much. Yes, there's some really good sound design in this film, and I think it stands out first and in one of the most strong ways in this scene where Stefan's head's taken off, and you're just seeing like it cutting into his throat and the blood spilling out and the gargling. Very brutal. I like that. The dude playing Dr. Judd is immediately ridiculous when he first talks. I think that he's kind of that way just to like really catch attention, and then he also is just played in a super creepy way because, again, he's a red herring. For a while you think, if you're not looking at the runtime of the film, for a while you think, oh, he was the guy who did it. The heads end up being in the back of his car when he's caught by the police. Well, he dies because of a car wreck, but yeah, just one of those characters. But another one where I was like, this is a choice. This is very ridiculous and over the top, but I enjoyed the performance for that reason. Excuse me. Pause for horror hydration. David seems way too interested in helping Aura and basically doing whatever it takes. It kind of comes off as unrealistic. But then we find out it's not just unrealistic, it's disgusting and creepy, because she's painted, I don't know, someone can tell me in the comments what age she was supposed to be exactly, but I got the idea she was still like a teenager, like still underage for being in a relationship with David, but it becomes clear that David is sexually interested in her, which is disgusting and illegal, but it's kind of played up as like this nice, sweet thing, which I don't know what that says about Dario Argento and or the people who wrote the script with him. I don't know. Also, the fact that he shot like nude scenes with his daughter. Weird. I don't understand. What an awkward scene when David sees Aura topless. Speaking of nude scenes with his daughter. It was just such an awkward scene. Like, she pops her top off in the bathroom. He's like walking by and he just like stops. And it lingers like a bit too long, which is where the awkwardness comes from. And then he just kind of like, oh, and keeps going. And she's kind of like, And it's like, I guess that's supposed to, like, lay the groundwork for him to start, like, really liking her. I don't know. Aura making such a mess of David's kitchen makes you think there's something mentally wrong that will end up being revealed about her. Well, I mean, it's the anorexia thing, and then they kind of, like, throw into anorexia, like, oh, if you're anorexic, then there's trauma in your past, and that, you know, makes you behave in certain ways. It gives you other issues mentally, and it's just kind of, like, a little ridiculous, but yeah. I do like how Arnie knows so much about anorexia and the trauma that's tied to the anorexia. Like, he's very specific, and he's like, I watch Donahue. Don't you watch Donahue? Everyone should watch Donahue. It makes you an expert on this stuff. He's one of those people before those people became even more prevalent in society, specifically online. Can you imagine Arnie with the ability of Google back then? Oh, man, he must have been something. When the kid breaks into the house, the killer's house, I started to get a Bob vibe from House by the Cemetery. This kid knows no bounds. He's not very bright. He breaks into a house, but here's another issue with this. Why are the windows open? Why also are the blinds not closed when the killer's home and taking heads out of bags and doing other messed up things and just looking and acting creepy? I don't understand. It's a weird... I think those are big plot holes. Like, you wouldn't leave the windows open or unlocked if you have, like, dead bodies in the house, or at least the heads of dead bodies in your house. And you wouldn't leave the blinds open if you're going to deal with that stuff. It's just ridiculous. Grace seems to really hate Aura for no real reason other than accidentally cock-blocking her. Yeah, Grace is like a very throwaway character that I think maybe they should have done a little bit more with. She doesn't really fit into the story all that much. Like, she literally could have been cut out. Probably should have been cut out, because this film is a little bit too long. It does have some pacing issues here and there, but yeah, should have been cut out. Okay, I kind of felt like David was sexually interested in Aura, but thought it was unintentional. But then the kiss happens. Gross. That moment confirmed everything I was starting to, like, feel a little bit with it, and I was like, well, maybe this is unintentional. Maybe they're not really meaning it this way. It's just kind of coming off this way accidentally. Nope, they went there. David and Aura, a thing. No thanks. Dr. Judd is very intense, and that probably makes it hard for him to persuade Aura that he's interested in helping her. I guess maybe he was. Like, it's hard to know if he actually was interested in helping her or not, because he gave her LSD. I don't know. I think that's what that was, or some sort of psychotropic drug. And he's just a creep in general, like, acts like a creep, so I don't know. Like, it was hard to tell, like, gauge if this guy's trying to be nice or not. The kills at the hospital are, for the most part, pretty lame, especially the one off screen. It was the first kill at the hospital where, you know, they just used the camera to kind of, like, run at the guy and insinuate that he got stabbed. So those kills, not great. When the killer took the nurse's head, I actually got excited to eventually find out why they were collecting the heads. In the end, we don't really find out why collect the heads. We find out why Piper Laurie's character is killing, but we don't find out why she's collecting the heads. I guess it's just like a trophy thing, because she's also taking other things from people, like the gecko. Like, she intentionally keeps the gecko. And there was something... Oh, I think she kept Dr. Lloyd's, Brad Dourif's character's necklace, his chain. Yeah, so, I don't know. Why is the killer leaving the blinds open? It's ridiculous. Yeah, I already talked about that one. Linda talking about her role in shock therapy and how she feels bad about it gives you the idea that it's part of the killer's past. That was the moment where I'm like, okay, this is how this is all going to come together. This one definitive moment about the use of shock therapy. And yes, it ended up being on Piper Laurie's character. So yeah, it did start to make sense at that point. And I was like, okay, now I'm more interested to see, like, how they're going to bring it all together. But then it made me really realize that, like, anyone she's going to be going after to kill will have been in the medical profession, will have been involved, other than her husband, who she kind of viewed as, like, being complacent in the whole thing, or, like, being a part of it. Linda freaking out when the killer is coming at her. Funny acting moment. Enjoyed that. Unintentionally so, but enjoyed that. Smart move by the killer to set off the hotel fire alarm, because that way they wouldn't hear Linda yelling. Like that little touch to it. They could have just gone with it and been like, these walls can't, no one can hear through these walls. They're noise proof. But no, they actually like hit the alarm, get people out of there. It's too loud. Can't hear the killing. Good. Dr. Lloyd left St. Bartholomew on bad terms, but that's a red herring, because he's also selling pills. And it is one of those things where, like, because that's how he left and he's out there now still selling pills, like, it's supposed to sell you on the idea of if he's doing something wrong, he could be the killer. You know, like, you have that in film a lot where, like, if there's one small bad thing about a person, then you can automatically believe that they would be the killer in the film. That's kind of ridiculous, but yeah. I guess killers also have issues with electronics. Not bad improvisation with the kill of Dr. Lloyd, but the falling, yelling head was ridiculous. Granted, it's Brad Dourif's head, so it was acted well, but it just looked really weird, but it's just one of those kind of like so bad it's good charming moments at the same time, so. And I did like how his chain got stuck in like the mechanics of the killing device. That was cool. They made Dr. Judd a creep from the get-go. Maybe that was Argento's way of throwing off Giallo fans. Yes. Sure did. He threw me off for a minute. Like I said, originally I was thinking Piper Laurie's character, and then I did start thinking, well, I guess maybe it is Dr. Judd. And then I looked at the runtime, like, after I started thinking that, and I was like, oh, there's still, like, 20 minutes left, so no way it's Judd. Okay. David getting punched by the pharmacist, I thought was a funny scene. It looked like real, like, fakey punching violence. That was funny, plus the reaction that he has when he kind of, like, falls to the ground. That was hilarious. After he uses a fake script, which, why did Grace have those? I don't know. Aura's bracelet will end up leading David to the true killer. Another thing that they focused on a lot in the beginning of the film, showing that bracelet, so you're like, okay, this is going to end up being important later, and obviously it is when David sees it pass him by, and it leads him to the killer. Again, why is the killer leaving windows unlocked? Because that's what David just does. He just crawls in there, and then he's not even being that quiet when he's in there, like, calling for Aura. Especially after the fact that, like, he just, like, knocked on the door and talked to the person who came to the door. The Nicholas curtain scene is appropriately disorienting. I like how they set that up, how they, did the set design for it and how they shot it, because it's very disorienting, which is exactly what you're supposed to be feeling from David's perspective at that moment. I was wondering if Adriana was actually alive. That's who it was. Adriana was Piper Laurie's character. Finally, I have the note like at the very end. So yeah, but yeah, I did wonder if she was alive. The reveal of how Aura was tricked into thinking her mother was dead is pretty lame in my opinion. Where they're just like, oh, she was holding up my father's head, and then she had her hand on her own hair, so it looked like the killer was behind that. The killer's head being blocked by her mother's head, and he was just holding up two heads. I was like, that's kind of like a lazy, like, lame thing. But then again, it adds to it so bad it's good charm. The Nicholas birth scene is really oddly done. I will say that. Another moment of it being, like, kind of over the top, kind of oddly done, kind of ridiculous. It also goes on a little bit too long for what it is, I think. But there are a bunch of scenes like that in the film, honestly. The motive for this is clear, but the spirit of Nicholas speaking to Adriana is pretty over the top, but not as ridiculous as when that neighbor kid kills Adriana. Somehow this kid decides he's going to go in. He gets a hold of this device. There just happens to be a hole in the ground, and he has the wherewithal to put it down there and have the accuracy to get her head right in it and hit it and kill her. So unbelievable, so ridiculous, but, there's a lot of that with Giallo films. I get it, so yeah. The reggae performance finish to this film. Okay. I did, file that under something I didn't see coming. Again, One of those kind of like charming, so bad it's good moments. Reminded me of the film Popcorn because all the reggae music used in Popcorn, which I thought was fun, so it's fun here. But sorry, real quick. I have sinus issues, like how dry. Sucks. Okay, and my final thoughts on this. I do like how free-moving the camera is in this film. Cinematography-wise, directing-wise, is pretty good. Love the camera work. Love that it keeps moving, keeps you engaged. The ambiance of the film is pretty well done because of things like the camera work, which I already talked about, the music and the lighting. I think all that stuff comes together. Just give it this great atmospheric feel. And I think that's one of the reasons that even though there's a lot of bad aspects of the film, it still kept me engaged and interested. Love it. There are moments where the music is too upbeat and whimsical. It plays out very oddly. This is kind of like the zany music aspect that I was talking about in the beginning, which again is why we should have had Goblin producers. You messed up. Should have been Goblin. Just, again, like, imagine what a Goblin score would have done to this film. Imagine. Many scenes go on a bit too long, which gives it that lazy, slow feeling. It really is this kind of, like, slow, meandering feeling to the film where it's like, we're going to, take some detours. We're not in a hurry to get there. We're just going to take our time, whatever we want to do. So yeah, that's one of the things I didn't really like about it. But anyway, my rating out of 5 stars with half stars in play, my hybrid rating of, as an overall film and it's so bad it's good, I'm 3 stars. I'm going 3 stars. I enjoyed this. Would love to hear your thoughts on this film. Go ahead and put it in the comments. Love it, hate it, in between. Just give me like, a sentence or two letting me know your justifications. That'd be cool. But do me a quick favor, hit subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I would greatly appreciate it. Hit the notification bell button if you want to know when I'm putting up new videos, which I'm doing 3 or 4 a week, which I think is, a good amount of output. And yeah, thank you so much for checking out this particular video. And until next time, keep it brutal.